I am now live, it says. So I don't know what's wrong with this pen, but I brought it out for a walk the last couple of days and I've opened it up and my hands have been covered in ink. I think the sack is fine. It seemed to suck up and hold the ink and push the ink out, but I don't know. Maybe it got upside down in my pocket and had a big pile of ink inside the cap or something, but I'm going to retire it from using it, even though it's lovely. It's a great pen to show off to people when I write their names at a bar, for example. When I ask them what their name is and they say, why? And I write their name fancy and then they wow. They know why I asked them. But when I write their name and my hand is covered with ink, that doesn't help me or them. So I think I'll retire this for the moment. Maybe I'll just leave it here on my desk where I can play with it. There are certainly other Waterman Sterling Overlay Watermans that I can use instead of that one. Would be equally wowable. But I wrote the name of my Lyft driver yesterday, and he was wowed. And as he should have been, but then I had to ask him, do you have a tissue? Because I've got ink all over me and I don't want to get it all over his car. And so he gave me a wet wipe and a napkin, dry napkin. See, this pen, I could take this one out every day. And if, let's say, I'm hit over the head and someone steals all my pens out of my pocket, yes, I would be very sad if this one got stolen, but maybe not quite as sad as I would be if this one got stolen or broken. Yesterday, after I got my Lyft ride, the Lyft took me to the Boston State House, which is what people in Massachusetts call the Massachusetts State House, rather, in Boston, what people in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts call their Capitol building, is the State House, designed originally by Bulfinch and then added on here and there by other architects. What a beautiful building that is. I was there when I first moved to Boston and 40 years ago, and then I was there yesterday, and I'm going to go there another time and do drawings. I did drawings of the State House on my iPad, which you can see on my Instagram accounts. You might enjoy them. I think they resemble to a degree some of the interiors that John Singer Sargent might have painted. The compositions are a little quirky. It's not the typical way to draw the interior. There's a dome, rotunda. Okay, there has to be a piece of paper I can use. This one. There's a rotunda, so it's an octagonal room, roughly, I think, octagonal, with a dome on the top of it. And there's arches and paintings of Revolutionary War heroes. There's niches with sculptures of dead white guys. And so most people, and if you look at the state, the photographs of the Massachusetts State House, you'll see this depicted, and it looks like this. Here's the photograph, and it's a wide angle lens, so it looks maybe bigger than it really is. And here's the dome, up here, and then there's a balcony, octagonal balcony, and then there's marble columns, and it's all centered and boring. This is, the postcard image. So I looked right here at this little corner, and this is, what I drew. So you see the balcony here, you see a niche of a painting, you see some crown molding with, metope and gutai and stuff, and you see here's the dome, and you see this coming up here, and there's some balcony there. So it's not symmetrical. You don't really know what you're looking at. You're looking up at a weird angle. The lighting is kind of weird, and that's what I look for when I go drawing anything. I try to avoid looking at it front and center, because that's really boring. Front and center. Look at a building from the side. Don't, the picture of the United States Capitol building, which will soon become obsolete if the president gets his way. Why do you need that building at all? He can turn it into a beautiful hotel. It'll be beautiful people. It'll be beautiful. It'll have only the beautiful people in it. Because he doesn't care about the legislative branch, does he? Fucking jackass. Anyway, this image on the back of your 50, or wherever it is, 50 I think, is not as interesting as looking at that building from the side view. And here you have, the weird thing about, or not the weird thing, the thing about many buildings that are governmental is they're symmetrical. The right side looks just like the left side. So why bother taking that kind of picture? Because it's boring. So the Capitol building from the corner, from right here, this corner, looking that way, you'd see the side here and the windows it has here. You'd see the steps going up to the House of the Senate, or I don't know which one that stairway is. You see the big stairway here. You see the other building here. You see the dome here. The flag on top of the dome. We're gonna make a new flag. It's gonna look like this. It's gonna be red, and it's gonna have a big T for Tesla and Trump. It'll be perfect, people. Maybe it'll be like this. Maybe it'll be a T and a T, like that. Maybe that's what it'll look like. Or maybe we can just, move part of this over here and part of it over there, so it'll look like this. Maybe that's a better way to design the new flag. Don't get me started. Anyway, this building, this view is much more interesting than the view I just showed you, this view. Boring, interesting. Boring, interesting. And then if you can also do it when the sun is somewhere else rather than at noon, you'll get shadows and highlights and shadows. There'll be a big shadow here and a big shadow there. This will be in shadow, shadow, shadow. And this will be in half light. This will be in sunlight. And that's interesting. Learn how to use light and dark and shadow and highlight and perspective to make an interesting picture. Okay. Are we done? So anyway, ODW is the initials of the person that owned this pen at one point. And I've never, sometimes if I see initials on a pen, I'll come up with a name. I haven't done that for this one. Orwell Dilbert Wellington. Oscar de Laurento with a W, de Wento. Overdose. What's an O name? Oscar. Dutch angle during golden hour. Is that what they call it? The Dutch angle. Sunset light is beautiful. It's this warm orangey light rather than morning light. Morning light is not as yellow, even though it's the same sun and it's at the same angle. It's just the light at sunset, usually the air is warmer. So I think the temperature of the air causes the color to change a little bit. It's nice. If that's what you mean by the golden hour, I think that's what you mean by golden hour is sunset or nearing sunset. I think for me, in drawing a building, the 3 o'clock hour is good. You have, if this, here's a building. Let's make it the White House. Something we all know what that looks like. Here's the White House. Looking at it at noon, here's the sun. Let's draw the three versions of it. At sun, the light would be coming directly down. This part would be dark. You'd see if there's any sort of overhanging entablature on the top, you'd see a shadow there. You might see shadows below the parts of the windows that stick out, but it looks like that. That's kind of boring. To see it, if the sun is sunset or sunrise. Now again, I don't know which way the White House is facing. I think it's probably north-south, maybe. You'd have a shadow here. It would look like that. But, or not even like that. You'd see something like that. To have it at 3 o'clock, I think then you have diagonal shadows, which I think are very interesting to play with. Hello, Mr. Parker. So, but anyway, so that's, I think the 3 o'clock light on any building is probably good. Now, again, which side of the building, if the front of the building is facing west at sunset, it's going to look bad. It's going to look bad if it's facing east. So you might have to wait till, it's wintertime where the sun is not quite in that same direction. I don't want to retire this pen. I want to keep using it. It is so nice. Nice and heavy. Looks pretty. But if it keeps leaking on me, I don't want it. That needs a nib. What's wrong with this pen? The nib was sticking out further than it should. What is this nib like? This is a good nib for signing something on on camera. Has a nice sound to it. You know, the big banker in the movie that's signing foreclosure documents to kick the widow and her 6 children out of the house that he owns. That's what he would use in the movie to sound angry. Ooh, this nib, this is one of the, I don't know if you can see that. Yes, you can, a little bit. This one has latitudinal, you can hear it, lines that make it easier to grip. Your hand doesn't slide down. This is not a very common thing to see in pens, but it's quite helpful, actually. The only thing that is wrong with these kinds of things is if you do have ink in your cap and the ink gets in all of these crevices, it takes a little bit of time to clean them, but they are fun to it really does grip your fingers, your whorls and ridges or whatever they are. Stick nicely to the ribbed for my pleasure. This is watered down Sheaffer. There's probably more water in that than ink. See, that needs a nib. That needs a nib. Hey, Clemente Santos V. Here we go. Here's a nice pen. It has a nice engraving. Initials. MH or HM. HW. I think it's an MH. That's what it's supposed to be. So Clemente Santos, you have to remind me who you are. It's been a while, I think. This is a very sexy looking nib. Very long, tined. It's stiffer than you'd expect. I would expect this to be twice as flexible. Dirty water. It's more dirty water than ink, than watery ink. Here's a number 4 nib. 4 nibs that aren't broken are kind of rare. And it's because the number 4 and the number 2 nib fit in the same size pen. And pen users or pen repairmen or pen collectors and pen buyers and sellers, they might look at the back and see 14 there, and they might cram a 4 nib in it and it'll be fine. But also, you know, the whole section of a number 4 and a number 2 are interchangeable. So if for some reason during the course of the pen's life, the section had been moved, and you try to cram a number 4 into a number 2 hole, you're going to crack it. '94 with factory music nib. Wow, good for you. So a Waterman 94. So is it a Ripple 94? Probably is. I think 94s were Ripples. I think. This is where you need to get, we need Friedrich here to set me straight. He would know the answer. Parker, do you talk to Friedrich at all? You once were thick as thieves. But then you got thin, or something happened, I don't know what. Also, the number 3, like this pen, a 13. This is a 12 barrel. Oh, it's a number 2 nib, so it's okay. A 12, a 13, and 14 are all the same. The cap and the barrel are the same dimension, and the section is the same dimension. It's just there's a different sized hole. I think this is a 4 nib. There's no nib on this pen. We should start nibbing these things that are missing a nib. I have nibs for them. There's a little pile of them right here. Not that one. That needs a nib. You can see why these nibs are not put into some of my pens, because they're just not. This one's pretty damn sweet looking. So Clementi, is it a Ripple? And if it is a Ripple, is it olive or rose or blue? No, olive, rose, or yeah, olive looks brownish, tan brown, khaki color. Red is red, but I don't think they made a red one, a 94 in red. They made 3 colors: rose, which was red-ish and yellow, so it has this sort of pinkish look; blue, which is blue and green mixed together; and then olive colored, or olive named, which is tan and tan. A green one, well, that I think of all the colors, I think that's the prettiest. Let's see if I can open the drawer that has those, and I'll show you what I have. Okay, I hate when this happens. The normal ripple is this color, red and black. That's the 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100. When you see a ripple, it's going to be this color. I think the more common of the non-red ones is this one, which is the olive ripple. And then the blue ripple, blue and green. I don't know what color they call that, blue, I think. So it's sort of a dark blue and a dark yellow-green color. And then you have the rose, which is yellow and red. So these are the 3 colors that I think they made the 94 out of. 94. And so a nice music nib on that would be great. I remember coming back from the New Jersey Pen Show in a car. We were on some highway going from New Jersey to Boston, and the light of the highway, illuminating the highway, was such that a big fistful of red ripples of all the different sizes, a 58 down to a whatever, they all looked like they were olive ripples. They all had that brown color. And I thought, oh my God, look at these. All of these olive ripples. I don't remember buying all of these, but of course it was just the color of the gas. Being burned. I may do that. I also recently with my phone, when you do, I'll answer it in a second, Schiavello. What was I saying here before I got interrupted here? When you take a movie using your iPhone and you press slow motion and you take a picture of you signing a signature, the sound of it's down a couple of decibels, and just the sound of it is so amazing. So I was thinking, I'm just going to make a movie of me writing with a couple of different pens in slow motion and post that. So Sheldon, I think that's what I will do. Okay, Schiavello. I have maybe 50 bottles of ink in the house. Some of them are here not entirely by accident, but I'd have to mix a particular color of ink to match some invitation. So a lot of the inks I have are not pure any longer. Sometimes I will buy a brand new bottle of Waterman Red or Waterman Blue, but most of the time it's Waterman Black. And if I can't find Waterman Black, I'll find some other color black. But I'm a Waterman fan, and I think 9 times out of 10, I will fill a pen with Waterman Black. I like the color of the black. It's a little bluish. There are some blacks that are a little browner, and I like the bluer. The only time I do it is mix a color for a particular purpose, is to match a color green, let's say. I have one client now that wants me to calligraph the envelopes in green ink. And sometimes a green that you buy from the store is too emerald green. It's a little too St. Patty's Day green, and they want it a little yellower. So I'll mix it with some yellow ink that I have. Not that yellow ink is purchasable by most companies. Didn't make yellow ink, but there are Pelikan, I think, made artist inks that came in many more colors. They're not really supposed to be used in fountain pens, but for me, when I do calligraphy on pens, I think I was just using a dip pen, so it didn't make any difference. I don't know what the Mont Blanc Mystery Black is. I don't have 1,000. I think at the most, when I was doing the most work, I might have had maybe 20 different kinds of ink colors in their bottles, but then I would mix a blue and a green together to get a different kind of green, and that would be in a bottle, and I'd use it maybe once for a job, and then I would throw it away or use it to mix another color. There's a point at which the color just turns ugly. It just gets too gray or just too much like baby shit color when it's green, too brown or too something. So I don't recommend it. Let me get my phone. I'm going to take a little video of me in slow motion writing it with a pen and see what it sounds like. Be right back. Here's my phone. I'm not going to worry about it being in focus. I would do that if this were for real. Okay, there's these two sound differently. So let's see what these sound like. Okay. Let's see. Okay, here's. I remember now it does take time for it to get in slow motion. It starts out normal. Okay, we can go a little. Sounds. Anyway, it can be fun. Go to the last one here, which was off the page, but you can hear it. Well, that didn't sound very interesting. It sounds like someone breathing, is what it sounds like. Someone. I do have a fun video that I did. I'll find it for you. I'll play it on my YouTube channel. It's Flight of the Bumblebee. But you hear both the music and the pen making a noise, which I think is fun. Okay, where is it? Bumblebee. There we go. So. Ta-da. Anyway, that was fun. That was one of my Franken pens with a Victorian dip nib in it. And that was just one dip. So the pen wasn't filled with ink. There was only ink on the nib and the feed underneath, and it never skipped during the entire Flight of the Bumblebee. If that nib were in its original holder, I'd have to dip it, probably to cover that piece of paper with all that ink. I'd probably have to dip it 100 times at least. So that's why Franken pens are my friend. But I do like the idea of sometimes I've done other videos of me just writing, and I will think of a piece of music and I'll move the pen around to the beat and the rhythm and of whatever the music is. And that sometimes is interesting. I think maybe I should try to see if I can do that again. And it might be maybe it would have to, oh shit, maybe it would be a only a tiny phrase of, Schubert's Unfinished Symphony. Maybe it would be dee 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 dee. Maybe that's the only part that I would do, and then I would pick a different pen and maybe do another theme for from Wagner, Die Walküre of Act 1. And see, I'd come up with 10, and maybe none of them would be recognizable, but it might be fun to see. I think I did it once with Gollywog's Cakewalk by whoever wrote that, Rimsky-Korsakov. Or was it another Russian? And I made a movie of me, and it was in my head. And I okay, think about that song for a second. So that's how that would sound. And that might be kind of fun to do. Just a group of 15, 30-second or less than that melodies without the music. Flight of the Bumblebee without the music. That might work. I don't know. How does it even go again? So maybe it would work. I don't know. Something to think about. For me, many of you have watched me long enough to know that most pen collectors use their eyeballs as they use only one of their 5 senses. They use their eyeballs. They tell you what the pen is, when it was made. All of that is what you see. Sometimes they use their nose. They can smell 2 Parker Senior dual folds, and they can tell by smelling that one is hard rubber and one is plastic. You can tell that by smelling a black pen. One might be hard rubber, one might be plastic by smelling it. You can sometimes smell what kind of ink they have as well. Hearing, the aural, A-U-R-A-L, sense is sometimes, rarely, it's used maybe by pen users. They don't want the scratchy sound, so they want it smooth. So they appreciate using their ears. Using their mouth, there are some people clearly that the pen quite often gets in their mouth because you see teeth marks all over it. And whether that's some sort of weird oral fixation, that is up to a psychologist to decide. But and in putting it in their mouth and biting on it with their teeth, they also probably taste what the pen tastes like. So what else do we have? Feel. We've done the sight, eye, ears, nose, smell, mouth, taste. So the feel is the other thing that I think is not appreciated enough. It's certainly understood and appreciated by the user of the pen, but whether and a pen collector might think about it only accidentally. I don't think they would ever, oh, I really like the way this pen feels. It's so nice. It's so smooth. Or it's so bumpy. I like it when it's bumpy. Or whatever. You don't normally hear that at a pen show. Oh yeah, I like to feel my pen. Yeah, I bet you do. God. Yeah, and there are certain things that feel warm to the touch, and they are warm. They actually do have heat that they take from your hand, and the pen then has a certain warmth to it to begin with. I mean, even if you took the pen out of the drawer and you haven't touched it in years, that there is a certain feel that does feel warmer than a plastic pen. Maybe they are if you took a temperature of a plastic pen and hard rubber pen. This one might in fact be warmer. We have to contact the Bureau of Weights and Balances and see if they have a device where they can, touch they can measure it with this. They can take the temperature with something else. Pen stroke, yes. So taste, I'm looking at what color is it going to be. I don't know whether a pen, like if someone had 10 different pens and I were to lick them like a popsicle or a lollipop, yes, I'm sure I could tell that this one is hard rubber and one is plastic. I don't know whether I could tell one is red hard rubber versus black hard rubber. Certainly red hard rubber is heavier than black hard rubber. I would sense that by feeling it, but I don't know whether it tastes different. I'm blowing your mind. Well, you have pens. Suck on them and see what happens. What did you say, Clemente? Celluloid does give off a smell and camphor over time. Hard rubber feels warm to the touch. No. Anyway, I find it fascinating, that anyone, especially people that use the pen, people that just look at them, that are pen collectors, they might pay attention to the other senses. But for people that actually use the pen every day, they are much more aware of all the elements of a pen, whether it be the way they smell. You put your hand up next to that has the pen in it next to your chin as you're writing something or listening to the boring lecture, and of course you can smell what the pen smells like, especially if the pen has a strong smell. I know a lot of people were upset with Nathan Tardif's pens because they smelled so bad, and they're made of hard rubber in India, and I don't know whether all hard rubber pens when they were manufactured from the beginning smelled funny, but they may have. But the ink. I think ink does. There is a definite smell to various kinds of ink, and I don't know whether the smell is. I think if there was a company that was making ink that would dry fast, or that would clean easily, they might include some chemical into that for that to happen, and chances are that chemical would have a smell to it. If I paid attention to the smell of different kinds of inks, I might be able to blind test. Someone has a bottle of Parker and a bottle of Schaefer and a bottle of Waterman ink. I might be able to say, oh, this is Waterman ink. I can smell the difference. Okay. Yeah, the Parker 45s do have a smell. Some Estabrooks have a smell. And I don't know what it is, but there are certain plastics that do smell a particular way. And I'm trying to think of other ones. Oh, the Eversharp Ventura pen, the burp pen, that stinks to high heaven. It's an awful smell. And they all smell, I think. And they don't go away. It smells the same as it did when it was made in 1950. And they're awful. Okay. Yeah, so all the plastics that were ever made are made using various chemicals and various dyes and various hardeners and various softeners and whatever oil, dinosaur oil, goes into creating plastics. And one recipe is going to be different from another recipe. And one color, to make a particular pen particular color, you use a particular dye or a different kind of rubber or plastic, and they all have a scent to it, I would presume. So what else can I tell you? So Clemente Santos V, I forget where you are located in the world. The ink is not rubber. Ink is made of lots of different kinds of stuff. Back in the olden days, it was made of walnuts. And Iron Gall ink was walnut. India ink has shellac in it. And where does shellac come from? The bodies of beetles. Rubber has, you're from the Philippines, okay. Have you been a live visitor on my show before, Clemente? Beetles, yes, beetles. Red 40 right, I don't know what that means. But anyway. There could be. Yes. I know that the was it cyanide poisoning? Arsenic. Arsenic was used in a lot of products in the Victorian era including wallpaper. There were certain colors of printed wallpaper that had a green, I think it was, a green color that had a lot of arsenic in it. Oh, okay. Yeah, arsenic, I think, is what makes something green. Now, I think by the time the Wherever Pen Company came about, the government issued warnings or made it not available to turn into wallpaper. Oh, I see. Red is a dye pigment. Oh. I need to go buy some food for lunch and for breakfast. So I'm going to sign off shortly. My battery is also wearing down. So, yeah, I know that shellac had was made of beetle exoskeletons, whatever they're called, carapace, beetle bodies, and that's what shellac records. When you think of all the Victrola records that you've seen, making one record, I don't know how many beetles that took. I'm surprised just in making records that has not been extinct. You're learning so much for once. Well, some of the things you are learning in this particular video are actual facts. Most of the things that come out of my pie hole are opinions. Now, the opinion might, in fact, be a fact, but most of the time they're not meant to be, because a lot of them are subjective rather than objective. When I say how beautiful a pen writes, that certainly is not objective. Now, it could be objective if I said the range of this nib is between such and such a thickness and such a thickness. That's an objective fact, but I rarely interrupt my thinking with facts. Don't let facts get in the way of telling a good story, or whatever Mark Twain said. Don't let the truth get in the way of telling a good story. Well, thank you, Parker, for that. It's fascinating might be the right word, rather than instructive. That might not be the right word. Fascinating might be the correct word, because much of it might be fantastical or based on fantasy rather than on fact. But I do have to get the heck out of Dodge here, so we'll catch you another time. Thanks for everyone that did chat. Parker, Clemente, Atomic, and Sheldon, I think, were the people that were in the room today. Just going back to see if anyone else was there. So we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Your red Carmine pens, they're great. End stream.